Nostalgia Radio. Embrace nostalgia. 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 Nostalgia Radio. Embrace nostalgia.
Welcome, everyone, all listeners joining us around the globe. Welcome to another exciting moment in slow parenting. This is another exciting time with slow parenting program. We welcome everyone. Slow parenting program is a program that is being organized by Nostalgia Media, and I am your host. I'm going to be hosting this program alongside with my co-host, host Nati. Host Nati, over to you, please.
Okay, welcome once again. Like my co-host said, Quentin, we are delighted to have you with us on the episode 6 of the Slow Parenting program. If you are tuning in for the first time, this is the Slow Parenting program, where issues relating to parent-child communication are discussed to help parents enjoy the pleasures of family life. And I'm particularly excited about this episode because the discussion is centered on something that is prevalent in most African homes. I remember when I was reading the book, this chapter of the book, and the author mentioned something about how parents should, by all means, encourage their children to succeed, but not to push their children to succeed by all means. And that statement struck a chord in my heart because it reminded me of when we were about taking our senior WAEC in secondary school. And I remember one of my classmates' mother, she came to school and she asked her daughter that, are you guys paying any money to external invigilators to allow you guys talk and do some other things in the hall? And the daughter told her no, that her classmates are not doing that. And the mother gave her money and told her if other people don't do it, go alone and do it. So even as at that time, I felt bad because I felt like the mother was negating the place of teaching her child hard work. So I hope that as we progress in this episode today, we'll be able to trash some of these issues and help parents, come out from this kind of mindsets. Okay.
So moving forward, before we go into today's topic, which is the temptation for 110% and no less. Before we go into that topic, please, I want us to meet our resource persons for today. The first person I want to introduce is Pastor Mrs. Yetunde Bancho. You're welcome, ma'am. The
Thank you
next
so much,
person,
Clinton.
yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. The next person is the
Yeah.
person who's going to be joining us. The person who's going to be joining us, though the person is not in the studio right now, is Dr. Dr. Sarumi Uyewale. Though he's not here right now. He'll be joining us soon. So over to you.
Okay, Mrs. Boluwatiwi Ayopaleke will also be joining us today, and she's a writer, she's an author, and she's a creative intelligence coach. And finally, joining us today on this episode to discuss the topic, the temptation of parents to demand 110% from their children and no less, is Dr. Richie Adeosi, who is the founder of Slow Parenting Incorporated. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So as the program progresses, our viewers and listeners, if you have any question, either from this episode or any of the previous episodes, you can drop them on our Facebook page, Slow Parenting, and they will be attended soon. Okay, we're going right into the business of the day. So, like was earlier said, we are discussing today the temptation that parents face to demand, 110% and no less from their children. So, the first question that we have today, this is going to Pastor Banjo. We'd like you to answer this question for us today. How can parents set realistic goals or expectations for their children and also support them to meet and exceed those expectations? There are some goals that are not realistic. So how can parents set realistic goals for their children and also support them not only to meet those goals but exceed those expectations? Pastor Banjo, please
All right.
aim.
Okay. So you alluded to something the other time, and it's the value of hard work. It's important that parents help their kids to understand the value of hard work and that nothing good comes easy. So once we're able to, that's one of the things that my parents used to sing in my ears growing up all the time. And my father especially would say that, you know what, I'm not going to, if you don't pass JAMB, I'm not going to go and beg anybody to, don't even think about it. I'm not going to go, I'm not like Yoruba people. I won't go and prostrate for anybody to take you into school. So you better, so he was a man who believed so much in merit. He believed so for us, I don't think there was ever any time that he had to pay money or influence anything. It had to be purely on the back of hard work that you got whatever you got. So one thing with the starting point should be that parents should help their kids to understand the value of hard work and that they would not be influencing things on their behalf. Go to pay money or do things, things that are behind the door, back door kind of stuff. When you help them understand that, they would be able to, pull themselves up by the bootstraps and do what needs to be done. The second thing I would also say is that there is the need to understand or know your children, know their abilities. The truth is that we cannot, we cannot cast them all in the same mold. We're in days when some kids need more attention than others. So you have to know your child, know that child's abilities. And when you know the child's abilities, you are able to sit with them, take that time and say, you know what, this is my expectation for you. My expectation for you is this. Are you able to do it? Are you able to give it your best? So we should have those conversations. Like if you have a child who does not have too much of an ability, at least you know that, okay, this is what I expect of you. Are you able to get 60s in all these courses? I have those conversations with my kids. Okay, this term, I mean, when they were in, when they were in high school, I would say that, okay, you're good at this subject. I believe that you should be able to hit this grade, this mark. And, is there anything holding you back? And if I see that they're drawing back and they're not, they're not putting in the time, they're not putting the work, I'll call them to order and say that you're not putting in the work, you have the ability. So anything stopping you is yourself and just your lack of focus. So just having those conversations and sitting with them from time to time to say, let's have a conversation about this. And when things are not going well, many times we need to be able to speak with their teachers. Many times kids have a different persona in school than what they have at home. And you need to be in connection with school. You have to be in contact with school to be able to understand this. Maybe your child that looks like as if butter won't melt in their mouth at home. You will get to school and you discover if they put solid rock inside that child's mouth, you grind it. So we need to know, we need to be in contact with the school, be able to understand how they roll in school so that we'll be able to set those expectations. And then, of course, how, when our kids are doing well, I think I grew up with in a time when parents never used to praise their kids for anything. They would say, oh, you get like 94. They say you can do better, you can still do better. It's okay. But I mean, I was, oh, wow, good job. But then you know what? You can still aim higher. But the good job will never come. Say, okay, you got 94, go, you can do better. Don't you have mates who got 100? So I don't think we should be in that mold. We should appreciate the work the child has done, praise their work. That's part of being supportive, praise their work, and then, of course, encourage them to reach for the stars. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, man, for that great great contribution. You're welcome, Dr. Sarumi. I can see you're just joining us. You're welcome. We are still discussing on 101%. So helping your children to go through that 101%. Now, this question will be directed now to Dr. Ricky. Sir, please, can you help us? Can you enlighten us more on this?
Thank you so very much, Clinton. I was laughing when I said Pastor Banjo was, narrating or rather recounting the whole issue of, oh, you scored 94%. And come, who took first in your class? Nobody cares about what the position you took or no. It is your father wants to know who the person that scored 100%, not you that scored 94%. So yeah, that was the era we grew up in. And first, parents must realize that perfection itself, it's a process. It's not an event. Okay, it's not an event. It's not a happenstance. It doesn't just happen. It's a process. And then you need to guide and guard your children to initiate that process that will lead to perfection. It starts from your paying attention to their homework, as they come back, look at their schoolwork, okay? Look, the children already know who is better than they are at school. Like Mrs. Ban just said, first, you must know your children. Okay, there's that child that comes home and believes that you touch him, the next thing he's just going to die the next moment. But go to school, go and hear the report from the teacher. It's a terror to everybody else except take care of his assignments. Okay, we all went to school. We went to school. So if we remember the kind of things that probably happened when we were in school, we should not have a thinking that for some reason our children are absorbed from those thinking. Sinachi started by narrating an experience while she was in school, which is maybe later day school. It's not a new thing. It didn't just start. It didn't just start. I remember when my first daughter was going to go to sit for jam, and I drove her to the hall, to the venue, the center, and then parents were actually giving money to the invigilators to help their children, and they had a particular room, a class where you go, you enter there, and then you see the person there, and you come out, and then you hand something to your daughter. I sat where we were watching, and my daughter was like, "Daddy, what are they doing?" I'm like, "I'm watching like you're watching." And then when it got to our turn, they said, I said, "Is that where the exam will take place?" "No, so, sir, you need to go see." And there was this, I said, "No, I'm here. You should write the exam." A mother, a woman, gold trinket from here to here, from crown of her head to the toes of her feet, walked up to me and said, "Sir, as I'm looking at you, you don't look like, it's not as if you cannot afford." I said, "Afford what?" He said, "Well, don't suffer this child, don't suffer this child. Just go there, give them something. I mean, everybody is doing it. Look, I have given them for my child." I'm like, "Thank you very much." So this is not a story that people tell you. There are things we experience. And like Mrs. Ban just said too, my father is clearly told all of us, "The deal I have with you is pass your exam, I will pay the school fees." Simple. Meaning whether it's to get into the university or it's pass your exam, I will pay the school fees. Meaning I will not beg anybody. And I kind of, if it's an inheritable trait, I kind of inherited that. Yeah. And our friends believed that I was being unfair to our children. "Oh, Richie, you know people. Why is this girl sitting at home? He didn't go to school after that. Why? Just call." And I had relations who were, well, top management officials in certain universities, and go and talk to your brother. I'm like, if you don't pass, you are not going anywhere. First or second, now I have made the first, but the second point is, look, when you are insisting that your children should just jump from nothing to 110, you are also modeling something that is very dangerous, which has become a cankerworm that has eaten our society today. Merit has been thrown to the garbage bins. Merit is worth nothing anymore. Okay? It's now if you can pay for it. So when you are pushing your children and you are paying the teachers to pass your children to the next stage, next level, you are reinforcing that system in the society that frowns on, that gets people who forged papers to be in your whatever position, the Senate, your presidency, wherever, okay? You are encouraging that, you are reinforcing that. And when some of these things started now happening in latter days, I mean, like today, I know, I got to know the reason. I didn't have to look for the reason why people have become numbed by the fact that certificate forgery is not a big deal. It's not, I see, is it only that? I beg, talk about something else. So you have groomed, nurtured, okay, an army of people who will do anything but legitimate thing to get that 110. Okay? Get your children to know that it takes 1 + 1 to get 2. It's a process. Processes take time. Okay? Time you can't force. If you don't stay at the nurturing base, nothing happens. Thank you. I'll just hold it there. I know we have so much to say still.
Can I make some contribution on this?
Yes, sir. I was about to get to you now. Yes, sir. You can make your contribution. We're talking about. Parents
No,
know.
don't worry, what I just heard. I'm
Okay,
a
sir.
director. I'm a director in two primary school in their board of governors, and that's aside the fact that my wife also run a couple of schools. What Dr. Richie has just said is is an anomaly that is already becoming a boaba tree in our midst today. Normally, a child should start school by age 5. But right now, most children are already in school by 18 months. And one of the things that is making, education and our children not to grow is because they lack both maternal and paternal care at their early stage. And they are pushed into the world without that care. For example, I was in one of these schools, and the head of school called me because one of the parents was there whose child, a new parent that was coming in from another school. And in that school, there is a standard test that they will do for you to fit you into the class. And when they tested the girl fall down two classes below, and the parents started fighting the headmistress. That no, in the school that is coming from, is the one that is stopping, that right now she cannot even do the class you claim, the class below it, but she did well in the class that is below that. It was quite a terrible fight. And the parent had to be educated. I had to sit down because I've been in education for close to 20-something years. So I had to sit down and, at least counsel that parent that you are destroying this girl. And my brothers, one thing I want you to know is that is the general thing in most of the school. Right now, by age 8, most of these children are now going to secondary school. By age 13, they had finished SS. And by 13, some of them are in the university. What are they going to do? They don't know anything. And by the time they are 18, they are graduate. And you'll be wondering, what is the problem? Right now, Professor Oloide of JAM, the JAM is in court with a parent who sued JAM 100 million because that girl was underage and she was chatting with an adult, but that adult, she thought that adult was presenting himself as a JAM staff, but that adult was a university student, a pedophile, who was trying to lure that girl away. And now that woman now sued JAM. And one of the case that Olede was saying today is that the woman, they will meet in court because this girl is not even supposed to be qualified to sit for JAM at her age. So it's a malignant problem that we have right now in Nigeria. And I've been in education and I can say that. So what you have just said, Dr. Richie, is a problem. And parents need to be counseled. They need therapy, if I can say that. They need therapy. Because most parents that we have come across, and my wife always says, most parents are in a hurry to rush their children to pass through secondary school and they say my colleague's child is already there. This is already there. So they start pushing, and by the time you do that, you're already destroying the future of that child. That's what I just want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that. Sir, please, in like 2 minutes, can you tell us how parents now we've discovered the problem? Can you not tell us how these parents can set realistic goals and help their children to achieve these goals. Goals that are realistic, not pushing them beyond their limits. How can they set realistic goals for their children and also support their children to exceed these goals?
Is it me?
Yes, sir. In like
Okay.
2 minutes.
All right, no problem. If I'm going to talk on that, I hope you will have time to accommodate me, but you have given me 2 minutes. You see, setting realistic goals and expectations for children is very essential for their development and well-being. That's very clear. And the first thing, I don't know what others have said, the first thing that is important is that you need to know your child's ability and interest. If you don't start with your child ability and interest, you'll be setting goal on air. Because understanding your child's strengths and their weaknesses and the interest that, is very crucial so that you can be able to, sit down together and set appropriate goals. Their age, their developmental stage, the individual preferences, all of this will help. And when you are doing that, like we say in management, you need to make that goal SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and also time-bound. For example, when I do this for youth, I said, instead of giving them a vague goal to be better in mathematics or to be better in coding, all you need to do is that I will set a SMART goal that, I want to improve my multiplication skill by memorizing, the 7 times table within the next 1 month. Or I will improve my coding within the next 3 months. All of this, you need to set it in a smart way. So their age and their ability is very, very important. Another thing I would just say there so that I don't, you need to help them break the goals down into, measurable levels so that they will be able to do it in chunk. Because if the goal is too big and you don't break it down, I teach this in self-development. So we do that. Something that they can do in 5 minutes. For example, let me give you an example for a child. If a child is trying to practice how to learn bike, how to ride a bicycle, you can just tell him or her, 5 minutes a day, you'll be riding bicycle, or 10 minutes a day, you'll be riding bicycle. And that will, or you want to learn piano, within 10 minutes or 30 minutes, once a week, you will be, learning piano. All of those are very important. I've spent my 2 minutes, so let me not go on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. That was so insightful and helpful. Thank you so much. I really hope many parents get to see this particular episode because this is like, the base of the abnormalities that are, going on in the country. And if this can be corrected, then we will have better children, better people, better country altogether. Thank you so much. So right now we'll be going on a short break, and after the break, we'll go right into the second section of the program. Do not go anywhere. Stay tuned. A jiffy.
Nostalgia Radio. Embrace nostalgia. Nostalgia Radio. Embrace nostalgia. Nostalgia Radio. Embrace nostalgia. Nostalgia Radio.
Welcome back from that short break. Welcome back from that short break. In case you are just joining us, you are onto the Slow Parenting program on Nostalgia Radio. And today, before we went on the break, we discussed, the temptation that parents face to demand 110% and no less from their children, and we got to know so many things, so many insightful and helpful things. We got to know that parents need to emphasize the place of hard work. They need to teach their children that hard work cannot be pushed aside in their bid for perfection. And we also got to understand that perfection is not an event, it is a process, and processes what they take time. So parents need to guide their children in that process of achieving perfection. And we also got to know that parents need to set smart goals and set these goals in a smart way while factoring in the age and the abilities of their children. Welcome back once again, and we hope you enjoy this second session of the program. Over to you, Clinton.
Okay, thank you very much, Osinachi. Well, the second question is a very practical one because so many parents will want to know how to do it. So the question goes how can a parent incorporate the idea of learning from failure in their parenting approach? How can a parent, how can a parent incorporate that brings in the learning approach from failure, to learn from failure? How can a parent bring it in his or her parenting approach? This first question, this person is going to Dr. Richie. They'll please help us
In 4 minutes, sir, please.
in 4 minutes.
Thank you so much. I had to unmute myself. Thank you so much. Well, first, failure, is the opposite of success, okay, of passing, if you like, if we're talking exams or getting things done, okay. It's a part of life, okay, and the same starting point that would bring a child to successful, successfully passing an exam or getting something done is the same starting point from where that child had gotten taken off to arrive at the place of failure. So what happened in between? Okay. Both the parents and this time and the child at this point, well, I mean, because my understanding about that question is that failure had already happened. We know what failure means. Failure means not succeeding at something. You failed an exam, you couldn't make the team in your soccer team in school, you couldn't make the cutoff time for running in your school's athletic team. Those are all marks of, well, not achieving or succeeding in something you set out to do. Now, the first thing is, how did that child start? How did that individual start? In this case, we're talking about a parent and the children. What happened? Were you attending your classes? You check, yeah, attended classes. Did you do all the tests? Yes, you did all the tests. Did you sit for all the papers or the examination you're supposed to sit for, in that exam, that set of examination? Yes, I did. Those sets of questions actually say that the parent, him or herself, has failed ab initio. The time that the failure had happened is not the time for you to begin to ask, did you do all your tests? You should be able to answer that question yourself. I know my child, he does his homework. We have said on this program, Mrs. Banjo has said it, and I think I said it earlier, you must know your children. You know that child that has a struggle with a particular subject. So you pay more attention to that subject. You get that child to pay more attention to that subject, especially if you have, initiated and sustained a mutual communication relationship with your children, and you know that this child dreams of becoming a particular thing or wants to, engage in a particular profession. So you also help on the child to pay more attention to particular subjects, okay? And you now see at that time, at that place where those scores that are needed to say pass were not attained. What were now the reasons? Assuming you have done all your best, okay? But failure is not a bus stop. That's the first thing. That's the second thing you have to let the child. Failure is not a bus stop. Failure says, go back and check how you have performed or done this thing, and then let's try it again. My son had a challenge with his work, his jam, and was like, oh, but he's almost there. People were like, no, the same thing again. Go to talk to the teacher, take him to another school. And he came to me himself and was like, Dad, you say I should go back to the school. I can't go back to that school. You know, my classmates will be my senior. And I'm like, well, you are not in school because of them, okay? It's just that you have to take your work again. So you are not there. Focus on that. Focus on the things that you didn't do right, like, you know, the subjects you didn't pay enough attention to, pay attention to them, okay? The things you say, oh, that teacher, I don't like the way she talks. Remove your attention from the teacher. The teacher is not the reason you are in school. Focus on the subject. Go look for that friend who doesn't have an issue with that teacher. I think the question is, how do we help after failure, right? That's my paraphrasing. Go and look for that your classmate, that your coursemate who has no issue with that lecturer, that teacher, okay? Let that person put you through. The important thing is to get it right. That you fail this time does not mean you cannot pass, okay? You fail just says you got to learn another way of, still legitimate way, right? Of getting it right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was so insightful. We've got to understand that failure does not mean that you cannot do it again. It's a time for you to go back, process the method, everything that was done, and then do it again. Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Sarumi, please, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, thank you. I have a lot to say about it. I have a lot to say today. The reason for that is that I run a program in the country. It's called Beast World. And Beast World, basically, we have the patency from here. What we teach.
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir, it's better now.
Oh, sorry. What I'm saying is that there's a program we run for primary school and secondary school. And in there, there are 21 century skills, 21st century skills, 21st century skills that we teach them. And one of them is failure. And when we talk about failure, there are 3 or 4 things that we will need to teach the children. And the first is how the child will develop resilience. And that life is not a straight line curve. Failure is not, is a teacher. Then we also talk about problem-solving skill and growth mindset. Those are the things that we talk when we want to teach a child about failure. And so, because the question is, how can parents incorporate the idea of learning from failure into their parenting approach? I get the question right. So, just like Dr. Richie said, failure is part of life, it's inevitable. So, and parents need to learn how to incorporate it, because number one thing I will advise parents to do is that tell your child that it is okay to make a mistake. Mm-hmm. It is all right not to succeed at the first try. And once you let that child knows that, then you are creating an avenue for resiliency, the ability not to give up, to keep trying, So that is very important. And so you should not use failure as a punishment for your child, but use it as a teaching curve so that he or she will know that part of life is to fail. But if you fail, don't give up. And so what we teach children is that don't comment success, comment effort. When we comment effort, you will discover that that child will not give up, even though there's an obstacle. That is very, very important. And then when you comment effort, whatever that small effort is, you celebrate it. Then another thing which we do under failure is parents need to teach their children risk taking. Because if children refuse to step out of their comfort zone and take risk, it means that they will keep failing. So therefore, if they fail in this activity, try them to try again, to pursue their passion, to take challenges that stretches them beyond their normal ability. And once they do that and they succeed a bit, please, parents, what we need to do is to celebrate their courage, their boldness, and their willingness to try, regardless of whatever the outcome is. This is what is going to give them that support and encouragement from parents is very crucial and is very important. And then what you are teaching them, parents, there is need for you to model it, because situation and challenges at home, they are going to watch you. And therefore, if it happens at home, let them be able to see what you are teaching them in your life, so that you be the mirror that they need to, to look at. That is very, very important. So, and I think I should just stop here because I've spent 4 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. The last thing I just got from this, which is parents need to model what they are teaching. They need to model it. If they don't model it, forget. The child can see, actually. The child can see. So parents need to model it. So the question still continues. Now it's being directed to Pastor Mrs. Banjo. Please, can you help us with the question?
I think Mrs. Okwaleke is here now, and since she hasn't had a moment to speak, can I allow her to go?
Yeah, that makes sense. That works. Yes.
Okay.
Mrs. Okwaleke.
The question says, how can parents incorporate the idea of learning from failure into the parenting approach? How can? Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, how can parents, please take that again? Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening,
How can parents incorporate the idea of learning from failure into their parenting approach? How can parents incorporate the idea of learning from failure into their parenting approach? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So these are my thoughts.
Can we see
I would say, oh my goodness. Okay, if you insist, I'll show my face.
No,
Your beautiful face will want
This is what I look like.
Yes, yes.
Don't mind me.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so here are my thoughts. I think that the best thing to do as a parent when it comes to helping your kids, or your ward or whoever it is that is under you, to appreciate the importance of failure is to be as relatable, as truthful, as vulnerable as possible. In my own case, my youngest child is 10, and she can literally write a story about all of the failings, maybe not all, but the age appropriate failings that I've gone through. I'm very quick to be like, I did this back then, and this is how this is what happened. This was the consequence of that action that I did, and then sometimes it's even very subtly, like maybe I tell them to do something, they don't do it,
And then I don't immediately say that to them, but maybe when we're now all more relaxed, I'll be like, I remember this same thing that you just did. I did that too. I'm like, you did? Oh, yes, I did. And let me tell you what consequences I faced then, this and this and that. And, and I will let them know that sometimes your motives, your intentions might be pure and great, but if your actions, do not represent your real thoughts, people are going to judge you by your actions. That. So the best of intentions really matter very little if your actions do not align with your intentions. And like I said, I'm very particular about sharing my failure, with them, to let them know that failure is just an event, it's feedback. So the more vulnerable I am with them, okay, let me be more specific, so I can paint a better picture, right? So I finished secondary school at the age of 15. And then I was having my JAMB lessons and everything. And then in that same age of 15, I went to JAMB lessons. I met this cute guy that was a poetic genius. I fell in love with him. I got pregnant that same 15. I gave birth at 16. Now I have kids that are, that child that I gave birth to at 16 is going to be 29 in July. And then the one after him is 16. And then I have a 12 and then a 10, right? So the one that is currently 16, he's a boy, yes. But it's only natural for you to get a certain age and you start having butterflies in your tummy when you see this pretty girl, she appeals to you. So because of the fact that I've always told them, they know their brother, for crying out loud, right? They know their eldest brother and they see him all the time. So he's not even something that I can hide. He's a constant reminder, more or less, if you get what I mean, of mommy's ways. So whenever something happens and maybe they don't want to tell me, one of them will be like, you better tell mommy, she will understand. Better gist her now, so they push one another to confide in me, even when they're feeling shy, or a bit embarrassed. They just have like, mommy will understand. Like, what's the worst that will happen? Mommy will understand. Just talk to her about it. So I like that because I didn't make it seem like I just told them, oh, her. I remember when I was close to this guy, I told my mom and dad about it, and these were the things they said to me, but I wouldn't listen, and that so I had to face natural consequences of those decisions that I made, and that yes, it turned out like this, like this, like this, but I helped them paint a very, very vivid picture of the shame. So it's not just mommy you're talking to, like how I would go out with my big belly and I'm this tiny, and I'll actually put, in fact, the other day I put it, something in my belly and how I'll go out and people will be like, greet you, like, sorry, oh, how are you? I know the girl that just finished secondary school, like I'm really painting the picture in their head so they can almost feel the shame with me. And then I ask them, do you want to ever have to go through that? Or do you want to be the one that they refer to that? That's the boy that gave that girl belly, he's the one passing. And everybody will ostracize you and don't want to, relate with you. So I think for me, it's just about being vulnerable and letting them know that everything in life, has consequences. Some are more dire than others. But it's better that you trust me enough to know that what I'm telling to you right now is in your own best interest. And sometimes it might not make sense to you, but come back to me and let's talk it through. And let's do it together. We're in this together. It's not you versus me. We are on the same side, So those would be my thoughts concerning helping them to see that failure is nothing but feedback and it's part of your journey. You can feel it's just a bend, it's not the end, and that you can still prosper, you can still succeed, after every feeding point. Yeah. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you very, very much. Wow, a good practical example that shows it, that tells it all. Mrs. Banjo,
So
Pastor
where are
Mrs.
you,
Banjo,
Clinton?
can
You are
you
not
help
speaking
us?
out.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Okay, we are hearing now.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Pastor Mrs. Banjo, please can you help us in 3 minutes, please?
Okay. All right. Thank you. And everybody has spoken so very eloquently about this issue. And I love, how Mrs. Opaleke made it so vivid, very poignant and very, relatable. Failure, because when we look at failure in life, we think maybe it's got to do with academics or business and things like that. But there are some other areas in our lives, that also we at a moment in time we can fail in. There's something I tell my kids all the time, that you have failed. I know we're using the word failure, but I think it's a little drastic. and I would rather say, you know, when we fail, like failing, I'd use the word failing. So that you have failed at something does not make you a failure. So when you fail at a particular point in time, it's just, you know, like it's like getting over a hump in your journey. It's trying to get over a hump. It's just a hump, a bump, an obstacle in your journey. And I always say this to them, and I say that failing actually teaches you how to succeed. And I think Dr. Sarumi was saying something about it the other time, and saying that, you know, not making the children afraid of failing. So we should allow, one of the problems parents have is that we don't want our children to fail. So you kind of do everything, you know, everything humanly possible, bribe people, buy this, buy that. And, you know, up to the extent that you do things for them instead of allowing them to fail at that moment, because failing actually teaches them how to succeed. There's some times when my kids were younger and they're doing something and I feel like jumping in. And if I know that me sitting there with them, I would have no choice but to jump in, I'll leave the place, you know, I'll leave that, you know, space at that moment in time and allow them to figure things out. And I've also always found that they are able to figure things out just by stepping out of that space and leaving them to do their stuff. I come back and then they've got it all figured out. So when people, just allowing our children to make those slips, to make those mistakes, you know, to commit errors, if I can say that, you know, it will help them to also build the resilience, like Dr. Sarumi mentioned, the resilience, because failing at something teaches you how to figure things out and to come back. So the messaging for parents should be that, not that you fail at that event or something, or whatever it is, but being able to come back. That comeback is the main thing. Like Mrs. Akpaleke's kids would look at her now. She has that in her past, but who she is now is more important. Who she is right now is more important. So our kids see us, maybe they see the successes right now. We must also, like she said, maybe we're speaking along the same vein because we're women. Men are not prone to sharing, but you know, you learn to be vulnerable with your kids. I always talk to them about my academic mishaps as well. I remember that when I finished school sets, Dr. Richie and I went to the same secondary school. I finished math with an F9. And I was like, yeah, my life is gone. How do I explain this at home? You know, but, you know, I had parents who were, in terms of you getting things on merit, they were unbending, unyielding in that. So I had to go back. No, I passed everything else, but I had to go back. You know, when we talk about retaking, I had to go back and do the whole thing. And just because I failed that, I knew that I could not afford to fail it again. So I had to sit with it. I had to learn it. I had to, well, even if I was not enjoying it, I had to do it, because it was a science student failing math. Where do you go? So I had to do it. And I always tell my kids too, I'm always vulnerable with them. I'm not like the daddies who say, hey, I used to get everything A1, A1. No, I'll tell them, look, this is what I did. This is what this is how I feel. But this is how I got back up. And even though you have missed it, you have tripped, you can get back up and you can do better. So it's not just where you are right now, but where you can be and where you choose to be. So getting over failure, coming back from failure is one of the things we teach our kids. And we should not, we should not ever make them feel that, what you failed, life is done. No, it's not done. It's just a moment in time that we will pass through, that will pass over. Failing is actually part of the process to success. It's part of the process to success. Failing teaches us how to succeed. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma, for that. Ma, please, in 1 minute, I would like you to, give us a take home. What you want us to take back, what you want the viewers to take back from today's episode.
Okay, what I want our viewers to take back briefly is, number one, know your kids, hang out with your kids, be real with them, be relatable. Let them tell you their issues. And then, don't be quick always to want to instruct. I think that's what we were talking about a while ago. Don't be always quick to want to advise, but, listen. When you listen, sometimes they're just trying to figure things out. So when you listen to them, they will walk through it themselves and say, okay, I think I know what to do. So let's listen to them. Let's, let's spend time with them. Let's know them and see how best, by knowing them, how best to support and assist them in their, quest for success or in their journey of life.
Thank you so much, Ma, for that. Dr. Richie, please, I'd like you to, give us our take home from today's episode in 1 minute.
Well, thank you so much, Chi, and thank you everyone for that. This an awesome edition of this program. Really, really, really. Take home. I guess most of us here and most of the people listening to us would recognize or remember the name Michael Jordan. Okay, it's a global basketball star. I'm just going to read. Okay, while I was writing this book, 7.5 Temptation, there was an advertisement that was running on television then, featuring Michael Jordan, and I found that advert so inspiring. I used it in the book, and I'll read, and that's my gift to everyone today. He said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my life. I've lost 300 games, 36 times. I have been trusted. That is 36 times. I have been trusted. That is by my team members, my coach, everybody, the fans, everybody. 36 times I have been trusted to take the winning shot for a game, and I failed and I missed. Okay? I have failed over again and again and again in life. And that is why I succeed. If you haven't failed, not been able to get anything quite done the way you want it done, you wouldn't even know what success means. You wouldn't even know, you wouldn't value success. Okay? So, like has been said, failing is not a dead end. It is the beginning of a new journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Failing is part of the journey of life, and it's not the end of life. Thank you. Mrs. Ayo Palake, please, what would you like us to take home with us in 1 minute?
Okay, so as the others were sharing, something else came to my mind, something very recent actually. So I thought maybe I should share, and that will be my round off. Okay, so one of my sons does not like math, right? And so there's this game, I'm sure the whole world literally knows the game Roblox, right? So there's a particular part of Roblox, a particular game under Roblox that requires you to answer mathematical questions in between, I think, to go from one stage to another stage, right? And but every other type of Roblox that he plays, he beats it. Like his siblings will be like, "How are you doing? You're so amazing. You're such a genius." In the chat room, also Discord, he has people that tell him how he's such a genius with the game. But he has issues with this particular one. As I said to him, you never really get tired whenever you don't do well in one level. You're always like, you know what? You sit down, you strategize and say, how can I do better so that I can beat this step and go to the next step? That's usually your attitude. I don't see you, long-faced and feeling bad about it. You have this thing of, you know what, you beat me now, I'm going to beat you next time. That's usually your attitude, right? I need you to put that same attitude into this. So do not take failure, or failing, like, Ms. Banja said. Do not take it as something that drains you of everything or makes you second guess yourself. It really should, because that's the same way that each time you're playing a game, you want to beat it. You're like, you know what? I'm keeping scores. You beat me now. Trust me, I'm good. So that's the same attitude I want you to have, and that has really helped him. So anytime something happens, like, "Mommy, don't worry, they got me. You even keep scores. Okay, that was a 2-0. I'll come back and I'll come back strong. So that would be my ending. To say that just look at it as it's just something that happened. You have a lot more capacity and ability. You just need to strategize and determine how best to go about that thing that you feel that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma. When we fail, we should just re-strategize and give a very laudable comeback, a comeback that that will shut the mouth of mockers and so on. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Sarumi, please, in 1 minute, what you want us to take home with us from today's episode?
I will use 2 minutes. Thank you. because this is very important. Failure is a teacher. But how will a parent
Be louder, sir. We can't hear you very clear, sir.
how will a parent know that their child is struggling with failure or emotionally? And there are 4 things I will just say. The first is that when a child is undergoing avoidance, is avoiding activities or situations that they used to enjoy, is a sign that they are struggling emotionally and the parent should do something. Second, when that child is exhibiting the spirit of perfectionism, he wants to do everything right. He doesn't want to make mistakes. They are trying to compensate for their fear and failure by always ensure that they do it right. 3, when that child is exhibiting disengagement, they are disengaging from school activities, disengagement from playing with somebody that they used to enjoy, it could be a sign that they are struggling and coping and try to right their mistakes. 4, when they are always angry and very irritable, it could be a sign that that child is also struggling emotionally and the parents shouldn't neglect it. They may be feeling frustrated, and overwhelmed with their mistakes. And number 5, which is the last, when that child is undergoing anxiety and depression. Once a child shows that sign, it's very clear that he or she is struggling to deal with their mistakes. And so parents need to note all this so that they'll be able to quickly nip it at the bud before it becomes a gargantuan cancer that will not be able to take care of. Thank you for allowing me.
Thank you so much, sir, for that. Parents need to pay more attention to these signs in their children to nip it in the bud. Thank you so much, sir. And as we round up on today's episode of the program, I've got a good news and a bad news. Yeah, so I'm going to be sharing the bad news first. The bad news is that we don't have much time to deliberate on these issues during this, live show. We have limited time, and these issues are, interesting issues. They are prevalent issues that need to be discussed, extensively on to help parents, make parenting more easy for them. But the good news is that Dr. Richie goes on a TikTok live show to expound more on this issue. So if you want to delve more into this issue, you want to understand more into this issue, and you cannot send, a message to our Facebook page, you can join Dr. Richie on his TikTok live. Yes, by 12 p.m. Nigerian time and 6 a.m. West African time every Tuesday. You can join Dr. Richie and you get to learn more, and understand more about the intricacies surrounding parenting. I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, because I really did enjoy this particular episode, and we hope to see you guys in the next episode. So stay tuned. Next week, next venue. Don't go anywhere. Join us for episode 7. It promises to be amazing. Over to you, Clinton, for your goodbyes.
Well, you can join us, follow us on our social media pages, which is our Facebook and YouTube page. And also, we also have a website that is very, very good. You can also join us there. There are so many things that we can do on the website. There are so many programs that you see on the website that is going on. So from this side, I'll say goodbye till we meet again next same time, same venue. Goodbye.
Nostalgia Radio. Embrace nostalgia. Nostalgia Radio. Embrace nostalgia.
Hello, my brother.